We are at the lowest ebb of the great tide, when not even the moon reflects the light of the sun, and the winds blown by the storms across the water's surface have fled to we know not where. When the long, dry sand flats have been revealed, and it can feel as though we have lost our way, lost sight of our destination, for Jesus, the Messiah, the beloved one of God, Jesus who was and is God, has been brutally crucified. That it was Jesus' own choice to bear this cruel burden so that all of our burdens might be held and transformed by everlasting love seems hardly enough to soften such a blow, such a loss. And the pain he must have experienced in such a death, we can only imagine, perhaps through his mother's eyes as she bore witness there at the foot of the cross. Oh, how many mothers and fathers have had to bear witness to the untimely deaths of their sons and daughters, be it through natural disease, although what disease is natural, death in war, military or civilian casualty, or through another school shooting or mass shooting event, leaving parents without children, or with children they do not recognize because of the trauma laid down upon them because of those experiences. We are living in a world where the sounds of war ring across the Middle East and Ukraine, even as the sounds of silence seem to ring out in response to calls for just local and national voting practices and the expunging of corrupt politicians. And we struggle even to speak of these and other challenging topics for fear we might offend or further polarize those around us, or because we fear for our safety or the safety of those we love. Indeed, it can seem at times that we are living on unending and parched sand flats, a chilled landscape that is lacking of sufficient human compassion and love for our neighbor, with no exceptions. Love such as was given by Jesus, who welcomed all in his earthly journey and who sees beyond the sometimes frozen and barren landscapes of our hearts and minds and calls us to new life, and in fact makes that new life possible. Yes, we appear to be at the lowest ebb of the tide, and our thirst is great. Yet I've got to believe that our sometimes parched and barren hearts and lives long to be discovered once again by the love that will not let us go, and to learn once again how to share such love with abandon in community with all those whom we encounter. And you see, even when the tide is at its lowest possible point, and there are sand flats all around us, the patient observer will sometimes discover tidal pools here and there where life has temporarily been caught and surrounded. Tidal pools containing life just waiting to be discovered. There are examples of this in our own lives and this world. As troubled as our lives in this world may be, life amidst the sand flats, life as can be discovered, for example, in music, such as the beautiful music we've been hearing tonight. Or such as the music I heard some weeks ago when I was at the all-district choral concert in New Paltz, where the 5th and 8th graders joined the high school students and multiple music teachers working together across ages and school buildings to present a final song that talked about defying gravity and becoming heroes. What is a hero but someone who shows up at just the moment we need them to say or do just the thing we need them to do or say. Some have tried to suggest that Jesus was a sort of hero, another teacher among the great teachers who have arisen in various world religious traditions. And certainly Jesus taught in word and action what it means to be a servant leader, and gave us the greatest commandment that we also find to be the very most difficult: to love our neighbors, no exceptions, with warm and compassionate and forgiving hearts. Yet on Good Friday, we once again see that Jesus was and is so much more than one of the great teachers. Jesus laid down his life for this world and us because we couldn't and can't do this work of love alone. Apart from God, we simply cannot, no matter how hard we try, build truly loving action and clear and loving thoughts and feelings, not in a sustained way. If any of us thinks that we can, we have not yet begun to become honest with ourselves. And so, because the need for help was so great, and God's love for this world and all of us in it, the children and the elderly, the farmers and the city folk, the straight and the gay people, the immigrants and the refugees, and those born legally in their own borders, those living in Australia and Timbuktu, Iran and Ukraine and Gaza and Canada and the United States and Africa and the Caribbean and every other possible location on this planet, because the need was so great and God's love was even stronger. God took on our nature and our lot and came among us and taught, yes, and healed, yes. But then Jesus did what no one before or since has or ever will do. Jesus, who was and is also God, climbed to the cross to die so that all creation might have the promise and potential for new life. God gave God's own life up as an offering for love, an offering of love. And because it was God doing this, the very fabric of space and time as we have known it and what could be possible was changed. It's almost unfathomable. And this action of love on the cross, as we will begin to see if we dare to raise our eyes to the horizon in the next couple of days, this action of love will lead to the reconnecting of the tidal pools. This act of love, eternal dying, so that love eternal might be born eternally, will begin to connect the dots into a flood of love that dares hate to raise its ugly head, that declares that evil will not have the final say in our lives and this world. For someone, Jesus will be standing there with a righteous challenge, a right to challenge the very forces of evil with a greater song, a deeper story. So weep if you need to. I need to. For this world and all of the lost children, for the heartbreaks and the griefs and the enormity of all the pain. But do not forget in the coming days to raise your eyes to the horizon, there to witness the dawn of a greater love and the rising of the great tide that will sweep us onward into Christ's everlasting story.